Now, Nigeria no doubt has the potential to be a major supplier of petroleum products to other African countries, but experts say that would only be when the right policies are put in place. For them, Nigeria needs to move from selling crude to selling refined products. But joining me now to talk more about this is the Executive Secretary, Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Clement Isong. Good morning, Mr. Isong. Thanks for joining us on the program. So with the crash in crude oil prices and, of course, the volatility of the market, what is the state of the Nigerian downstream sector?
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the show. I think the downstream of the Nigerian oil industry has been impacted like the rest of the economy by the COVID epidemic. Remember that our industry, the downstream, was designated an essential service. So what this meant was that throughout the period of the lockdown, throughout the period of the challenges that we faced, our staff continued to work. From the vessels that were delivering products through the jetties, through the depots, the trucks, the filling stations. So we had to invest significantly in business continuity plans to make sure that our staff were safe. We had to adapt our procedures, our processes, our rules. We had to acquire PPE. For instance, normally we use breathalyzers before truck drivers are allowed to enter the depots with their trucks. But this time around, we had to change that. And instead of using breathalyzers because of the potential to cause a transmission, we had to change and use the simple walk a straight line test, for instance, in our depots. So we were heavily impacted in terms that we had to keep our business processes flowing. I think the biggest impact, I would say, for our businesses was the crash in prices. Very many of our dealers took heavy stop losses at the filling station. Remember that the price came down from 145 to 125. So it was extremely difficult for them. Not only did did they suffer significant losses during the period because of the lockdown. There were also low sales. So in spite of the fact that investments were made to keep the supply chain going, very many stations were selling 200, 300 liters per day. So it's been a very tough time for us. But we look to the future with hope. We look to the future with hope.
I know you say it's been a very tough time for you guys, but the issue of deregulating the downstream has been at the forefront recently. So tell us what's in it for your members, and with your experience outside the country, what do you think this would mean for the country as a whole?
Okay, you see, the challenge with price regulation, I keep trying to make the case for price deregulation and not deregulation of the industry. There are two separate things. What we are focused on is the removal of price controls. The regulation of the industry is absolutely necessary, especially when it comes to health, safety, the environment, and quality. It's extremely necessary. We commercialize extremely volatile products, and it is necessary that we do what is needed to provide, for instance, the truck explosions that you see, or the pipeline explosions that you see. Those are where we need very strict regulation. But we also need enough gross margin in order to ensure that regulations are kept, regulations are met. When it comes to price controls or price deregulation, we think it is good for the country. Price controls has created a situation in which we have paid, I think, subsidies over 10 trillion over the last 10, 12 years. This money could have been used to provide health care services. I think the COVID crisis has taught us that we really do need to do a lot of work to improve our healthcare services. It's the same with education. the security challenges that we face in the country, I think the only true solution to that is human development. We need to invest in our people. We need to invest in their education. We need to invest in jobs for them. And the subsidy causes us to simply just burn off in consumption instead of investing in our people. So in the first instance, for the country, removing price controls, removing price regulation will help the country to develop. When we talk about uncertainty and investments, in a world in which people are not certain of the prices that we sell their products.
All right, we'll reconnect with Mr. Clement Isong in just a moment. Well, Mr. Clement Isong is back with us now to continue the conversation. Mr. Isong, you were talking about the need to deregulate the sector, but let me ask you, if actually deregulation is the way to go, why is the government still dragging its feet to do that? Although one explanation is that they wouldn't want marketers to exploit Nigerians, but is this applicable?
Well, I can understand that fear. But I guess it is simply two different philosophies. There are many who believe in the world that the most efficient way of ensuring is competition, in ensuring that there is no exploitation is competition. There are those, of course, that believe in price controls. I think the world has moved towards competition. It is the most sustainable way of ensuring that the market is efficiently managed, is efficiently run. It is the most sustainable way of ensuring that the people are not exploited. In Nigeria today, we have had price controls for over 40 years. 40 years in Nigeria. Has it really worked? With 29,000 stations all over the country, and the amount of money that is spent on administering, trying to keep price controls in place, I don't think it is an effective way. It's expensive and it is ineffective. I think the rest of the world has decided that competition is the most sustainable way of ensuring that prices remain at its optimal level. The problem with price controls is that quite often the price point is below the correct price. And what that causes is that it is unsustainable. You find that, for instance, pipelines are not repaired in Nigeria. For instance, trucks, we are unable to renew our truck fleets. The infrastructure in the industry is degrading simply because we do not recover our costs and we do not make enough to continue to invest in the sector. So I do understand the fear. But where you have the regulator ensuring that there is no exploitation, that there is no price gang-up, this is what we expect a strong regulator to do. The Consumer Protection Agency of the country. This is what we expect them to do. So we can achieve both, avoid exploitation, but give the certainty that investors need in order to bring their investments into the country.
Now, the BPPRA had issued a statement saying that marketers are now free to import petroleum products. Are marketers actually importing now?
Well, I think we are more or less where we have always been. It is the NNPC that is the major importer of petrol, premium motor spirit. For many reasons, we've always had the capacity or the ability the permit to import. The problem was always access to foreign exchange. And the problem was always the question of will you recover our costs when we import? I think we are still at that point. We still struggle to access foreign exchange. That is still a problem. but also there is the recovery. We are engaged with the PRA to try to ensure that we get a good number, that we agree on the cost of importation. If we do not agree on the cost of importation, then I'm afraid we shall continue to remain where we have been. It is important that we recover the cost when you import the product. It is also important that we recover our distribution costs. Those are discussions that are currently ongoing with the PPRA, and I'm hopeful that we will arrive at a just conclusion in the near future.
How will the planned Dangote refinery impact the sector?
Well, that's a very, very, very good project in the offing. We are looking forward to the Dangote refinery. A 650,000 barrel per day refinery will be extremely useful for us in this country. It will not only provide our country needs, it will also provide need for West Africa, for Central Africa. It gives us an opportunity to move from a net consumer of foreign exchange we will now start benefiting, because once we start beneficiating our crude oil, we're not just exporting crude, we're now exporting refined products. It would be extremely good for the country. We shall gain in terms of foreign exchange, which is coming, that is the African free trade. It's an opportunity for Nigeria to take full advantage of its resources and to begin to export refined products. I think it's a fantastic opportunity, the Dangote refinery.
Executive Secretary, Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Clement Isong, thanks for sharing some of your time with us.